Farmers Insurance just announced that they're leaving the state of Florida. What does that mean? What does that mean for existing customers, and what does it mean for everyone else? Let's get into it. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel where we make these videos for you about what it's like to live and move to the Tampa, Florida area. We're also a team of realtors and would love a chance to earn your real estate business. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. I'd love to hop on a Zoom call with you, help you process your move, and show you how we can help. So this move from Farmers Insurance will affect about 100,000 policies, which is only about 30% of farmers' business in the state of Florida. They write some other policies through other affiliates that do the actual issuing for them, the sales. So a lot of people will be affected. And they just receive a 120-day notice of cancellation, and they have to find a new provider, a new policy. Yeah, I get it. All that sounds kind of intimidating, but the thing is, you can still get insurance on your home, on your cars. No matter where you are in the Tampa area, you can still get insurance. It might be through Citizens, which is the state-backed insurance company. That's who mine is through, and it's a pretty good policy. Now, the thing is, whenever you start a policy, you don't anticipate having a claim. So I don't really know what the claim process would be like, but my neighbors actually across the street at my old house had a great experience with Citizens whenever their water line broke on their hot water tank. Another thing that's a pain with moving providers is you might lose a lot of discounts that you've accrued over the years. Maybe it's just for years at the company, maybe it's for bundling home and auto, those kind of things, safe driver stuff. Like, you might just lose a lot of those discounts that have stacked up over time. I remember that whenever I moved to Florida from Colorado, I lost a lot of those discounts just because my provider out there wasn't here. By their nature, insurance companies are just risk evaluators, and then they sell you some kind of comfort about the risk that you're exposed to. So a lot of companies have just decided that Florida is too risky for their business to make money. And it is, the goal of their business is to make money. They're not nonprofits. Some of them are cooperatives and function kind of in a different way, but they're still trying to make money for their owners, for their shareholders, things like that. And this issue with farmers isn't just a Florida issue. Farmers' premiums have been going up all over the country. They've also backed out of California in a lot of areas. But my dad, who sells insurance in Oklahoma, told me recently that he's got so busy because farmers raised their rates by about 40%. That just caused people to shop around, helped him to acquire a lot of new customers. And this kind of thing happens a lot. And we'll get into why this is such a big deal. I was actually reading the Tampa Bay Times online, and that's where a lot of this information is coming from. An article talking about this pullout, kind of what the state is doing to battle it, and kind of what this means long term. So we'll get into all these details. So since 2017, there's been a couple storms that have hit this Tampa area, this Gulf Coast area. And as a result, 13 insurance companies have gone belly up in the area. And mostly they blame lawsuits. So lawsuits lead to way higher payouts. They lead to like way higher fees, battling all this stuff. And a lot of this revolves around hurricanes, like actually like damage during a hurricane that the provider doesn't want to cover or doesn't think they're responsible for covering, and the customer thinks this company is responsible. And let me give you an example of how this works, because one of my previous clients is actually suing his insurance provider right now. He lives in a big house with a clay roof. You know, those big houses with clay roofs, the roofs are really expensive. What happened is about 20% of his tiles were broken, so they need to be replaced, right? This is during Hurricane Ian, which happened, last year. So he filed a claim. There's all kinds of ways to file claims. You can do it with, private adjusters. You can do it directly with your company. That's part of the problem in Florida, I think. But they came out and said, okay, this is just partial, and we would only pay it if it's a total roof loss. So they're like, okay, this is what we can do for the partial. We can just replace these tiles. No problem. But the tiles are no longer manufactured because tile roofs last a long time, and then you just can't find these old tiles. To get the tiles to work, you need to replace the whole roof. So then they just deny the claim. They won't pay anything. Now he's had to file his claim again. Now he's had to find an attorney to represent him to get this claim paid. But in the meantime, he's had blue tarps on his roof for 9 months to keep it from leaking. And he's had to pay monthly to keep those there. So it's kind of a problem, and he's right to sue for something. Now, something that could obviously cause damage to these companies is if the suit is escalated. You know, it's the roof, it's the full roof, it's the tarps, it's the water damage incurred during the time they were tarped, it's, you know, pain and suffering. That kind of payout over and over again is what sinks these companies. Another thing that's come out as they've dug into these companies, these 13 failed companies that have failed in Florida, is actually not the lawsuits or the hurricanes that sink them. One part is tied to the lawsuits of excessive payouts, but also their high salaries at the company and all of their fees related to their affiliates. So a lot of these companies don't sell directly, they sell through some kind of affiliate. So they're paying those affiliates commission on everything they sell. Those fees add up, and then there's not enough cash to pay out claims. So to compensate for that, they either have to charge more, but if they're charging too much to even find customers, then they might as well not be here. So that's the kind of battle that these companies keep going through. And apparently catastrophe relief costs are at an all-time high. Hurricane Ian was actually the most expensive hurricane to date, but that does line up with, you know, building materials almost doubling in cost, you know, record high inflation, and then Tampa was one of the highest inflation areas in the whole country during the pandemic. So some of that cost might be kind of inflated because of those things. And if inflation keeps going this way, then every next hurricane will likely be the most expensive ever. And then it just furthers this narrative that we all just have to pay more, and I don't know what you think of that. So what can the state do? How can the state of Florida intervene in any of this and help everyone keep more of their money? So help the consumers keep more of their money by having some competition among these companies, and by helping the company keep more of its revenue so that it makes money enough to pay everybody, and so that it is a profitable company here in the state. And as I said before, like, the goal of these companies is to make money. So we can't just try to erase all that unless we want just state subsidized products. So one of the things the state is doing to try to help is making it harder for consumers to sue these companies. Now, I'm not talking about like granting immunity like with vaccine companies, where vaccine companies can't be sued. This would be very different. I think this would be more like you can't sue for like excessive amounts, like far over your claim amount, or that you have to maybe provide some kind of evidence through some kind of mediation to prove that it should even be escalated to a court case. All that just gets really intense when you get lawyers and all these excessive fees involved. If these things could just be handled through mediation, I think it might be quite a bit better for everyone involved. The state has also repurposed some money to issue $3 billion in relief, hurricane relief, to cover some of these expenses so that it's not as heavy of a burden on the insurance companies to pay for all these repairs. But in the midst of all this, so between November and March, which is the off season of hurricanes, so no hurricanes during that time, premiums went up all over the state. In Miami, they went up like 4%, 3%, something like that. But in the Tampa area, specifically Hillsborough County and Pinellas County, they went up 9%. That puts the average premium in this area about $3,000, which, since I've been here for a while, since I've lived in a flood zone, that doesn't seem too crazy to me, which is kind of funny. You get kind of desensitized to these kind of things. But the national average is $1,700 per year. So, you know, we're more than double the national average here in the Tampa area. And some parts of Florida, like Miami-Dade County, the average is, you know, $5,600. Other parts of Florida are cheaper, other parts are more expensive. It's just an average. And we're really focusing on the Tampa area because that's what I talk about. This article closes out by saying that premiums are likely to stay high unless we go a few storm seasons without a big storm. So obviously we have no control over it. I mean, we have no control over these storms in general, but just know if you're moving here, premiums might get lower at some point. If we go a nice stretch without a big storm that hits this Gulf Coast, which in Tampa we haven't had a direct hit in a long time, but even though these areas hit south of us or north of us, we still handle some of the increased burden on these insurance companies by them raising our premiums as well. And surely there's another system that could be built where if you haven't had a direct hit, or if the claims aren't within a certain radius of you, that you're completely unaffected. But that's just not how it works right now. One of my friends, who's also a real estate broker, he says this phrase about the area, that this is a pay-to-play area. And a lot of these problems, hurricanes, storms, bugs, whatever, these are paradise-like problems. These are tropical-like problems. And this area is like paradise a lot of the year. That doesn't sound cheap to me. Paradise doesn't sound cheap to me. I think long gone are the days where Florida is just this cheap safe haven. It's nice. People want to live here. People like it. People want to be here for the weather, the attractions, the cities, all these kind of things. That makes everything get more expensive. I'm curious what questions you have about insurance or what problems you've run into. I would love to hear from you, like call, text, or email. Any stories you have, if you're local and have some stories you'd like to share about how you had to sue your insurance company, or how you had a great experience with Citizens when you had a claim, whatever it is, I'd love to hear some of those stories so I can share them with the broader audience. And as always, we would love a chance to earn your real estate business. Our phone number and email are right there on the screen and in the description down below. Thanks for coming by.